The trailer and official release date of Drive to Survive Season 4 is out. Let's talk about the 10 things we should expect to see in the brand new season. George Russell and Valtteri Bottas, remember the beef they had? Oh yes, ladies and gentlemen, at Imola when they had a little collision in the wet, and then George Russell thought he was Brock Lesnar, stepping up to George Russell thinking he's going to give man the F5. It wasn't to be, but nonetheless, Bottas just sat there and took it, and I wonder what Netflix will do with that kind of piece together. Remember the disaster class at the Hungarian Grand Prix? Valtteri Bottas in the mix yet again, causing all manner of collisions. Loads of cars went out. Remember the man, Esteban Ocon, ladies and gentlemen, was the Grand Prix winner. He took the headlines after Fernando Alonso was doing some superb defending against Lewis Hamilton. Do you remember Lewis Hamilton being left out on track when the race had to restart and everybody else was in the pits and Lewis was out on track? Shenanigans FC. And lest we forget, Valtteri Bottas spinning in the pit lane. What's the matter with this guy? Oh yeah, of course, Fernando Alonso's return to Formula 1. How on earth can I forget? I forgot even last season was his first season back, because I tell you what, he's just picked up from where he left off. L-Plan, ladies and gentlemen, L-Plan. The Belgium Grand Prix, ladies and gentlemen. Do you remember the fast? 2 laps, ladies and gentlemen, 2 friggin' laps. Qualifying was an absolute disaster class, and the race itself, I tell you what, for all those people who paid their money, their hard-earned cash, to be there at Spa, were absolutely robbed. And then we were given half points for the drivers. The Italian Grand Prix, can we talk business, ladies and gentlemen? How about McLaren winning their first race since 2012, a 1-2 as well, the only 1-2 in Formula 1 in 2021. Mr. Danny Ricciardo stepped to the stage. Lando Norris, you can jump on P2 as well. Fantastic scenes, but of course, there's something else to talk about. We'll get there later. George Russell moving to Mercedes, ladies and gentlemen. Happy days, but I tell you what, Valtteri Bottas, the Alfa Romeo hates you. Just wonder how they're going to portray this story. The beef between Russell and Bottas, I didn't even realize it even existed. But I tell you what, you know what Netflix are like? They're going to major this situation. Remember Carlos Sainz and Lando Norris? Sticking with McLaren, how about that Golf livery, ladies and gentlemen, at the Monaco Grand Prix, and then Lando Norris puts it P3, back on the podium yet again. That has to be an episode in and of itself. And on liveries, remember Red Bull's livery that we were meant to have for Japan for the Suzuka Grand Prix, ladies and gentlemen, but due to the San Miguel, if you know what I'm talking about, we had to have the Turkish Grand Prix have the Red Bull in the white livery. It was all a bit like, what's going on? But nonetheless, lovely livery. I'm liking the concept liveries that they pulled out last year. Hopefully this year as well, can we get some concept liveries? Okay, to the beef you've all been waiting for, Lewis Hamilton versus Max Verstappen. Where do we begin? Remember the British Grand Prix at Silverstone when they touched and Max Verstappen went out, nearly went to hospital and all sorts? Lewis Hamilton with a roaring British crowd. I mean, my God, it was the beginning, ladies and gentlemen. I think I remember previously when Lewis Hamilton said that, you know what, now we have to go all guns blazing in order to win this title, because Red Bull, they're not letting up, and boy, was it tasty this year. How can I forget Monza, ladies and gentlemen? We've got cars on top of cars. It was almost like the payback, ladies and gentlemen. It's like WWE all over again, where after WrestleMania and Lewis Hamilton taking him out in the British Grand Prix, we've then got to Backlash, okay, where Max Verstappen has said, you know what, I remembered what you did to me last week. This Sunday, I'm going to be put on top of your car, and literally got out the car, hopped out and walked. Didn't even check on man, nothing. The beef was real. Oh, the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Do you remember the shenanigans there in qualifying? Max Verstappen flying. Didn't even need to go that fast because he was already doing a great lap. He then bins it into the wall, and then in the race, Max Verstappen overtakes Lewis Hamilton, and it was deemed illegal. Then he had to give back the place. Max Verstappen then, of course, brake testing Lewis Hamilton. I mean, my goodness, Netflix, you were given a treat in 2021. And this is the business end of the season. This was flame on, as D-Double would say. Brazil Grand Prix. I mean, where do we begin? Lewis Hamilton having to pass like 135 cars in order to get into first place, and then running wide of Max Verstappen into Lagos. I mean, geez, and it caused nothing but beef. People were asking for tapes. People were asking for the onboards of Max Verstappen and the onboards of Lewis Hamilton. It was ridiculous. Unbelievable scenes, Jeff. Now, this isn't a topic I like to talk about, well, because it's the Russian Grand Prix, ladies and gentlemen, and not because of what you're just thinking right there, but actually the fact that Lando Norris was on pole. He was leading the race, ladies and gentlemen, and they absolutely flopped the base. McLaren, but nonetheless, Lewis Hamilton made it 100 wins in Formula 1, the one and only to reach a century of wins in Formula 1 history. I wonder how they'll portray that. Remember Hamilton winning in Brazil, the whole Ayrton Senna kind of vibes and the Brazilian flag over the body, everything else like that. It was a fantastic year of achievement for Lewis Hamilton, yet it didn't end the best way it could have ended. But a tear
with a tear in my eye,
is shed for Lando Norris. Baku, the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, ladies and gentlemen, shenanigans FC, if you will. Lance Stroll going off because of tyre failure of Max Verstappen leading the race. He goes out because of the tyre failure. There was no real reason as to why the tyre even burst in the first place. And then the restart of the race, Lewis Hamilton starts off second. I think he's behind Sergio Perez. Perez has an awful start, a terrible start. So Lewis Hamilton then ends up going up in front, and then he presses some gimmick button on his steering wheel. The magic was on, or the whatever the hell he called it. He made a mistake and he went straight off into the side. Remember Mark Webber's scream? We cannot forget. Of course, Sergio Perez ends up winning the race. He gets his first race with Red Bull. Sebastian Vettel, people, finished P2. Can you believe it? Vettel on the podium in the Aston Martin that was dreadful last year. And then we get to Abu Dhabi. I mean, I've named shenanigans all video long, but Abu Dhabi, holy smokes, this was out of epic proportions. This was like refereeing in the Premier League. It was absolutely diabolical. Was Mike Dean part of the FIA team? Was Kevin Friend? Any one of these people? I'm just naming any random people that I can know. Chris Kavanagh, I can know Stuart Atwell. But this is Formula One, people, so let's talk about Formula One. And I tell you what, the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, the farcical business that happened after Latifi's crash at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, Lewis Hamilton losing the title literally at the jaws. Honestly, he was so close. He had one hand on the trophy, and Max Verstappen went and snatched it in the end due to some unbelievable FIA decision making, which later on he turned out to be sacked. We won't get that in the Netflix doc. Maybe we will, who knows. The beef, of course, between Toto Wolff and Christian Horner, Satan versus the Angel. I mean, it's going to be one of those, isn't it? Because that's exactly how it's portrayed. And I must admit, I'm liking the Jose Mourinho in Formula One. We need to have one of those in Formula One. And Toto Wolff ain't no angel, let's be very, very clear. However, we understand the injustice. We understand what took place in that race in Abu Dhabi. But I tell you what an absolute season. Netflix basically just hit play. All you had to do was just hit record and send it to us, because that's all the drama you need. You don't need to make anything up. It all looks fine and dandy. Hopefully more new fans to Formula One via Drive to Survive. Let's see what happens. Comment down below on your thoughts on what we should expect, ladies and gentlemen, in the Formula One Drive to Survive Season 4 Netflix documentary. With that, people, lights out.